So hey, it's Monday. It's my Monday edition, right, of my journey through fear, anxiety, and panic attacks. And as usual, I'm going to get right into it. I know that people come to watch this afterwards, and so yeah, I'm just gonna dive right in. And I think this is either, I gotta look back, it's either week 6 or 7 that I've been doing this. And just for those of you, because a lot of times there's somebody new on here that's listening or watching, I'm just going through my journey with this. I struggled with fear, anxiety, and panic attacks for about 25 years. They started when I was 11 years old and continued until my late 30s. But I've been free now for about 20 years. So I'm doing these videos. I really felt like, hey, Emily, how are you? I'm glad to see you on here. I really felt like kind of an instruction from God to say, I want you to go on and I want you to start doing these videos, 3 times a week. And just start sharing your journey, so people start to know kind of where you're coming from, so that people begin to trust what I'm saying, about my journey. Because people can look at me now. I've had several people that have come up to me after this. Hey Julie, how are you? And actually I wasn't going to say your name, but you're one that I was just going to say something about. So people that have come up to me that live in the community that I live in, and who have come up to me and said, really, like, I never knew that you struggled with this. I never knew, this. And Julie, who's on here watching right now, her and I worked together. She was my maid of honor, for my wedding and stuff. And again, with me, it wasn't so much like I was embarrassed, or I didn't want to tell people, or I didn't want to, where some people like to talk about what they're going through a lot. I was rather somebody who didn't want to talk about it. I think I felt like if I didn't talk about it, maybe it would go away. Maybe it would, it would just leave. So I didn't find myself doing that. I mean, my husband, we were married 2 years before he even knew, before I even said anything. When I first started having them at age 11, I didn't tell my parents until I was 16 years old that I was struggling with this stuff. Okay. And again, it isn't like I was ashamed or anything like that. It was just kind of how I am. And quite honestly, some of that is kind of good, because what I've come to know is that what you talk about on a consistent basis, what you magnifies. If you're complaining about something, in your job, with your spouse, or, something like that, the more you talk about things, the bigger it gets, right? So that can be a lesson, too. I know, we're all about transparency, and that's what I'm doing here, is being transparent. But also, you don't want to get into that habit of just telling people about it. Anybody that will listen, I'll share my journey with them. I'll put it on Facebook. I'll tell them how awful anxiety is, and how, you don't want to do that, because you're magnifying it. And anything that you magnify, right? Like with the magnifying glass, what happens? It gets bigger and bigger, and it grows, right? So, while you want to have some trusted people, maybe where you can share, occasionally and stuff, don't find yourself just talking about it. You don't want to talk about it, you can talk to it, like, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have seen things on Facebook where it says, don't tell your mountain, no, don't tell God how big your mountain is, tell your mountain how big your God is, right? So, yeah. So who else is on here? Ken Mosner, how are you? And either Bob or Sean Helber. You guys, thanks for being on here. And I'm going to say it, and I say it every single time, that I'm so grateful for those of you who are sharing these videos, who are telling people about the videos, who are even, liking the videos, because I know all of those things, cause it to filter out and to get to many, many more people. And there is so many people who are struggling with this. There's so many people who need to be set free from fear, anxiety, and panic attacks. So anyway, so I'm going to get right into what I want to talk about tonight. And what I put on the topic was, is this your lot in life, right? And if you go back to the last video, I don't want to kind of go back there totally, but I talked about a Bible story really briefly of when Jesus went into the town, and he went to this pool where sick and lame people, infirm people sat, and it was said that once a year the angel would stir the waters, and then whoever got in first would be healed. And so he goes into this area, right? And there's a lame man there for 38 years. And the first thing Jesus does is go up to him and says to him, "Do you want to get well?" Which seems like a very insensitive question, which seems like a very odd question, you know. If you had something for 38 years, I had fear anxiety for 25 years. Hey, Jackie, how are you? Good to see you on here too. For 25 years, you would think if somebody came up to you and said, you know, do you want to get well? The resounding answer you would think would be absolutely, absolutely, without a question. You know, but in this particular Bible story, you have to go back to my last one because I can't remember exactly where it is. Luke something. Jesus asked this guy, do you want to get well? And he did not say, after 38 years of sitting at that pool lame, not being able to go in, you know, not being healed, he didn't say, oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, do I ever want to be healed? That's not what he said. He said, I have no one to put me in the pool. You know, somebody always gets in before me, you know? And what did he do? He made an excuse. He made excuses. And part of that could have been because he thought it was his lot in life, you know? And I think many of us feel that way. Like, this is just how I have to live, you know? This is my cross that I have to bear, right? This is my thorn in the flesh, so to speak, you know? And it's just what I have to live with. And that simply is not true. You know, again, in this Bible story, Jesus wouldn't have gone up to the guy and said, do you want to get well? Right? And at the end, what did he do? He said, take up your mat and walk. Come on, just do it. You know, it's funny. We can, if I ask somebody, you know, let's say somebody with alcoholism or drug addiction, you know, if I ask somebody, hey, you know, do you think it would be God's will for a person to live like that? Or do you think it would be his will for that person to be healed and to be delivered from alcoholism or delivered from you know, drug abuse and stuff? And do you think that, you know, could that person be delivered? Most people would say, oh yeah, you know, oh, God would want that for them. Yeah, he wouldn't want them to live like that. But when it comes to like things like this, fear, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, you know, we kind of go, I don't know, I think that's just the way I have to live. You know, it's funny. We can say that it can happen for certain things, but then for stuff like this, I think we just get so, I'm not sure. It's things that we hear about it, you know, it's things that the doctors may tell us about it. It's things that a counselor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, it's things we read, it's things that we've heard that make us think that it's just our lot in life, that it's just, so take up my lot when I'm scared to travel because of what? Oh, I'm going to have to look at this, Emerly. I can't read it all for some reason. It's cutting off for me. I'm sorry. I have to read it and respond to it when I'm done. You know, it's not your lot in life. It's not, you know, I can't imagine, you know, a God up in the heavens, you know, going, okay, this person is going to get this, that, ooh, I want her to live with fear, anxiety, and panic attacks. And, you know, I'm going to say, oh, you're going to have to deal with it forever. And that goes for you too. And as for you, oh, it runs in your family, so there's not much we can do about that one. And as for you, it's like a chemical imbalance. I think you're going to have to be on medicine, and that might not even help. But you know what? I hope it works for you. Goodness sakes. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You know, my Bible says nothing is impossible for those who believe. You know, there is thousands of situations in life, you know, that people face that we're told this is impossible. or this is not going to happen for you, or that could never happen. And people beat the odds all the time, all the time. You know, you have to just have that will. You have to have that hope. You have to have that belief, right? That isn't how you have to live. Okay, is it something that you have to? I want to say so much fight for, but sort of. You know, you've got to be proactive about it, right? You know, it was the same as with this Bible story. Again, that's so good. Go back and listen to my last message. It's so good, and it just highlighted so much to me, you know, because he was given an instruction. He's like, take up your mat and walk. But Jesus again looked at him with not sympathy, listen to that, but compassion to say, do you really want to get well? Are you serious about getting well? Are you serious? Do you think you can get well? All right? I mean, that's got to be your first step. You know, if you're going to have in your mind throughout, you know, the rest of your life that it just isn't going to happen for me. You know, I just think this is something I'm going to have to deal with forever. Then you're going to deal with it forever. All right? So that's the first thing that you have to decide. You have to make a decision to say, you know, if I believe that somebody, you know, doesn't have to struggle and suffer with alcoholism, that God wouldn't want them to live like that, and I say, yes, I believe that, then believe the same thing. Or drug addiction, right? Or any of that, then believe the same thing about fear, anxiety, and panic attacks. You know, that he isn't going to want you to struggle and live like that either. Not at all. And it's so doable. It's so doable. But again, your first step is saying, this is not my lot in life. This is not how God has designed me to live. Nothing is impossible for those who believe. And I will overcome this fear, anxiety, and panic attacks. All right? That's just a key right there that I gave you. There's 4 things that you can say and that you can begin to speak. Write those down. Put them on your notes on your phone and say that every day until you believe it, because that is going to be a step to your recovery from this. All right? Speaking it. That's what faith is. Faith is it says in the Bible, calling those things that be not as they are, as though they already exist. So faith is believing something is going to happen before you actually see it. Okay? Doesn't take faith once something happens to, you know, then there's no faith involved. Faith is believing it, seeing yourself set free, believing you can be set free before it happens. Okay? And that is your first step in getting well. That is your first step in overcoming, believing that you can. So go back and write those 4 points down and begin to speak them out over yourself. Look in the mirror and say those things to yourself every single day until you really get to believe it, which means it goes from here to here. Okay, so it's not just head knowledge, but it gets into your heart, and then you really begin to believe that about yourself. All right, so that's what I'm going to leave you guys with tonight. And Wednesday is the 4th of July. So you know what? I said I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I will, but I won't be on in the morning. I'll be on in the evening. We've got some things going on. So go back and listen to this. Go back to the other weeks and look at the topics, you know, and things that you need, and begin to listen. I'm telling you, I'm here to give you encouragement. I'm here to be your biggest cheerleader. I'm here to show you that you can break free. That's what I'm doing this for. So please do that. And if it's not you that struggles with this, but you know somebody that does, please share it with them. Please let them know to go back and begin to listen so that they begin to have the hope that they can get well as well. All right? So have a good night. Thanks for listening, or thanks for watching, you guys.